So hi everyone, thanks for joining this webinar. So today we will have a look into what's new in 2020.2 Tableau, which is the latest version of the release. Mm, so I myself, I'll give you a quick introduction. My name is Jerry Paul. I'm a product consultant here at Redington, and I look after the pre-sales activities across Middle East and Africa. So let's begin. A couple of things to interesting stuff to cover today. So to start with, we have one of the very important feature, right? We could call it the new normal of Tableau, and that is relationships. With Tableau 2020.2, we have significant enhancements to support the analytics journey of the customers, and basically you could call it as elevating your relationship with data, right? And what we mean by that is we define relationships between database tables for more flexible, intuitive analytics with the addition of relationships feature into Tableau's data model. Now, this helps in monitoring key performance indicators for your business from anywhere as well. A couple of other things that we'll discuss today would be metrics and set controls and so on. So we'll deep dive into that. So first I'll give you a download of what relationship is. So like I mentioned before, we are enhancing Tableau's data model with new capabilities to help customers more easily analyze data across multiple tables, right? Now, this has a lot to do with the different levels of detail. Now, data details or the level of granularity of different tables that's been sourced from different databases have always been challenging for the IT team to curate the data, right? Now, creating relationships between tables make analyzing the data stored in the common data warehouse schemas like star schemas, snowflakes, and so on, way more flexible and easier. And now this doesn't require you to write any custom SQL code. So I'll take you through a demo as well, so that you get a better understanding of what relationships are. In a nutshell, we are making it easier to perform analysis across multiple tables of data. Now, if you look at it historically, right, we've been trying to combine different data sources and then analyze it. But now relationships are more flexible in a way to combine the data from multiple tables. So users define matching fields between tables, and Tableau generates automatic joins based on the current state of your analysis. Now that's the powerful feature of relationships. In a way, relationships postpone the joins to the time and context of analysis, so that you're not already querying from tables that are actually joined, which has a humongous amount of rows as well. Now, this preserves the native level of detail in your data and only queries tables that are needed based on fields in a viz, right? Now, when you combine these tables using relationships, it's like creating a custom, flexible data source for every viz, and that's all in a single data source. So you could just bucket it into into three features. It's more flexible, it's automatic, and it's contextual. Now, if you were to look at it again, it's just less upfront data prep. Previously, users often combine tables by pre-aggregating their data to a single level of detail in custom SQL or database views. Now, when analyzing multiple tables, Tableau right now with relationships can automatically combine the relevant tables at the right level of detail at the analysis time. So some customers have described this as ETL on the fly, right? And it's obviously more analysis scenarios per data source. So previously with pre-aggregated data, details would be lost, limiting the variety of many purposes a data source can serve, right? Now, a data source, let's say, can preserve all the detail for its source tables. Now, this enables users to answer unanticipated questions. It serves more use cases with a single data source, and that's the primary importance of this. So it's more flexible with fewer data sources and less maintenance, in fact. And all of this entails into greater trust in results. So combining tables of data can be actually tricky if you, for those of you who are actually doing the hands-on work and the groundwork. And it's also error prone, right? With a lot of joins that you have to do and the custom SQL codes that you have to bring in. Now, users can unintentionally filter their data while relationships always preserve all measures, right? Now, important values like money, sales, all these figures can never go missing, and you don't have to worry about that. Now, another challenge with manual data prep is that users usually pay close attention to the order of joins and aggregations. Now, with relationships, Tableau is taking away that whole effort from the user, and Tableau handles this automatically. So, in a way, joining two tables, let's take an example here, right? Joining two tables, as most of you know, results in a third new table. This isn't specific to relationships as such. This is fundamental, right? And all of you are probably aware of this. Now, when joins are executed upfront in data prep, all your subsequent analysis happens on this new table. The data in the new table forgets how it got there, and so valuable information like the level of detail of the original table is actually lost. Now, relationships combine and analyze these tables simultaneously and generates the exact same result required for your specific analysis. Now, this has numerous benefits, like I mentioned before. The first one is the level of detail awareness. Because relationships preserve the source tables in their original structure, measures automatically aggregate to their native level of detail. I'm taking a little bit time on relationships because this is the most important feature in this release with Tableau. Okay. And of course, the analysis time handling of unmatched values. Since unmatched values are handled individually per visualization, a single data source can simultaneously support all join types. It could be inner, it could be left, right join, or even the full outer join. So relationships are even context aware, and the queries which are being queried with the database are contextually aware. Now, Tableau only pulls data from the tables that are relevant for the visualization. That's what makes this possible. If you're only analyzing a single table, no joins happen at all. It's preserved as it is. Now, users can add more tables to their data source with no impact on the query. Now, when you combine tables using these relationships, it's like creating, again, like I mentioned, a custom flexible data source for each visualization, and that too all in a single data source. Now, with all of that talking done, let me just show you a very simple example of how you can leverage the relationships in Tableau. Let's imagine that I am I'm working for a ride-hailing company like an Uber or Careem here in my region, for that matter, and we have bicycle sharing services. So there are docks, there are different ports available where users subscribe to the app and they make use of the service. So this bicycle ride-hailing service is starting to get a little popular in the region. So me being an explorer, for that matter, I'm just trying to understand which stations have the highest capacity of docks, so that I can probably work around load balancing just to make sure that we have sufficient bicycles available for users to ride. Now, if I have to have a look at this, I'm obviously going to connect to my data source, which is in a CSV file here. So I'm going to connect that from my Tableau desktop. Let me just close this in a minute. Yeah. So what you see here is your conventional Tableau desktop interface, right? I'm connected to my trip data file. There's nothing new about this. However, you will notice that there is some difference on the interface as well, in the sense that I'm able to go right into this data set and perform my joins here. If I simply were to have a look at my trips before doing any sort of join, I'll simply update the database or the data source and preliminary have a look at the fields here. So I have a couple of information down there. I have a trip ID, I know when the trip has happened, what was the start date. I even have information on the type of customer, if the customer has actually subscribed to the service or not. So if I have to understand the docking capacity of a station, I'll need to pull in information from a different file, which is in my station.csv. So I'm going to do what we do traditionally, bring in my station.csv file and perform the join. Now that's an inner join, which is good. I'll quickly have a see what the columns are used for joining. I'll have to join this on my station name, right? Rather station ID, because I see that we have a station ID down there. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to close this and then update it for now. And I can see that I have my joined information here with the dock information as well, right? So I have the capacity of each station in this data set. Let me just close that. Okay. So I can jump right into my analysis now. So I've done the traditional join. Let me have a look at my dock count here, right? Which is down there. And I'm just going to bring that up onto my visual. Let me choose to keep the values and maybe have information on my station names. So I can choose my start station names here and bring it onto the Viz. I'll sort it and probably rearrange it in this way. Okay, so that was good. So I quickly have this breakdown of each station and the corresponding capacity where I can have my bicycles ready for the users. But as I'm looking at the numbers here, right, if I were to simply look at San Francisco Caltrain station, the numbers are, it's just exploding, right? It's 932K. Now that seems odd. One station having so much of capacity it doesn't really make sense, or does it? So I need to probably deep dive further and see what am I doing wrong. Maybe it's the join that I'm not doing properly. Let's say I duplicate this data source. Let me try relationships now, right? I'm just going to rename this trip. Let's just call it relationships. Okay. As I think about it, it just strikes me that the level of granularity of the two data sources, right, the station.csv and the trip.csv, it's actually quite different. And as I do the join operation, it's sort of increasing my number of records, and that's exactly why my numbers are bloated up. Now, a couple of ways I could fix this is to maybe get rid of and make use of LOD expressions. Now that's something I need to code that upfront, or maybe I can go for an average value rather than using a sum value. But again, it may not work in every case. So what I'll do rather is leverage relationships as we talked about, because relationships maintain the two different files as it is, right? Let's see how we can build a relationship on Tableau. So if I were to go back and let me take this out, I don't need the join here. So I have my trip data file there. What I'm going to do is simply bring my station.csv file, and you can notice how you can already see the noodle up there. So I'm basically sort of establishing a relationship with my trip.csv data file. And it asks me on what grounds do I want to establish that relationship. In this case, it's going to be my station ID. So I'm going to choose that. Yeah, that's fine. I can even go ahead and look at some performance options. I can choose to specify my cardinality there. Now, cardinality, for those of you who aren't aware, is nothing but the number of unique values you have in a particular column. The more there are, the cardinality is huge. it's going to be many to many. And if each record has only one unique value, then it's going to be one, right? Referential integrity also on similar grounds. It sort of tells you if all the records match in the two tables, or it's just some records that match with the other table, right? When you're trying to establish a relationship. These are optional performance features that you can leverage with the relationship, right? Now, once I have done this, I'm simply going to close that. One thing I quickly notice is that the preliminary data that I'm looking at, it's not combined as such. If I were to just click on station, I can see data only from the station.csv file. If I were to click on the trip.csv, I'm just able to see the trip details. Now that's exactly what I want, right? Now, if I were to replicate this particular analysis, let me open a new sheet. I can choose to do it from scratch. So I'll look at my dog count, sum of dog count, and bring in my start station names, right? And that's what I did previously. Sort it and just rearrange. Now, what do you think makes more sense? This obviously makes more sense with the data that I have, right? Couple of stations having a dog count of 27, which means that I can at a time have 27 bicycles at that particular station, and so on and so forth with the other stations, as opposed to having this humongous bloated number. Imagine if you were to do this analysis and publish this onto your portal, and the business users are going to consume that. They're going to have a really bad figure and insights from your analysis. I could continue to do my analysis based on my relationships. If I wanted to understand my customer behavior with respect to which are sort of the busiest stations that I have, I could leverage the relationships database. So I can bring in my dog count again, have a look at my duration of the trip. Okay, and let's say that I want to have a look at my average duration, and bring in my stations as well into the details. Probably I'll just flip it around. Yeah, format it a little bit, and bring in my type of customers, which is the subscription types. I have that down there, and I'll simply bring it to the color, right? Now, for an explorer like me, I'm quickly able to understand the behavior of my users. You can see that people who have actually subscribed to the service are actually using ride-hailing services for short trips rather than long trips. It could mean that they're using it for their daily workday purposes or meeting a friend and so on and so forth, while the other users are actually using it for long trips. And these may be casual users, right? I could go on with the analysis, but for now, I'll take a pause. The idea was to give you a gist of how you can leverage relationships and how it comes in handy as opposed to using a joins. Okay. So in a nutshell, let your data be single with relationships so that there are no trade-offs, right? Moving on to our next feature, which is part of the 2020.2 release, are set controls, right? Now, for those of you who are already aware of set actions, these are improvements on the same. If I were to simply describe you what set controls are, these are just set actions which just got even more powerful with more selection modes. You can now incrementally add or remove values from a set by interacting with marks in the view, even after the selection is clear, right? So basically, we're expanding Tableau's range of analytical options, and this definitely powers your dashboards and how people interact with them. In 2020.2, you can now perform set analytics with the same ease and familiarity as using a quick filter to drive complex analysis. Now, with a new set control, you can dynamically change the members of a set using a quick filter-like interface. supporting both single and multiple selection. So you just need to simply click or select or even deselect items to control which values are in the set. And what happens behind the scenes are that these selections act as inputs, which are then fed into calculations that drive the visualizations. Now, if I were to just talk about it, you may not really able to relate. So I'll just show you a gist of how this works, right? So if I were to look at my set actions, this is how it was in 2020.1 and prior. Let's assume this is again it's a retail company. Probably I'm a category manager looking at my subcategories. I have a couple of metrics. And now if I look at each of these subcategories, I could just hover on each of my subcategory and look at the corresponding profit and sales. Now note here that it's not a dashboard action. It's a set action that's in picture, right? Now, if you look at the improvements that Tableau has brought in 2020.2, it just got jazzier because instead of selecting marks, you have additional option of using the tooltip menu. Now, let's assume that I want to remove storage from my set of subcategories. I can optionally do that from the menu here. And once I click that, that's out of the picture, right? So I still have machines and tables. I can still go back and choose to add that to the set. And you'll notice the corresponding metrics are going to be reflected on the dashboard. Now, this is the improvement that's been brought in 2020.2. Now, that's not all. And finally, we have the amazing set control. This acts as a new quick filter style interface. What I mean by that is, if you simply have a look at this, I could just select or deselect my subcategories, and automatically your set gets updated. And once your set gets updated, your corresponding metrics get updated. So the user experience is very smooth with set controls. And it doesn't even take coding to implement this. It's as easy as showing your set out on your visual and just interacting with the dashboard. So this is another feature, a very powerful feature that Tableau has brought in with 2020.2. Okay, now a couple of things, a couple of other features that I'd like to highlight is the Esri web data connector. Now this is a geospatial information that's been provided by Esri. Now those of you who aren't aware of it, you can just have you can check it up on Wiki. Tableau has been able to add a separate connector for this. So it's as easy as just hovering on your connections. I could just probably show you here as well. If I were to look at my Tableau desktop, where's my Tableau desktop? Yeah. And look at my connections. You have your Esri server connector there. And once you connect to this, it's as easy as pulling in the data and already starting your analysis. What you see right here on the dashboard is after connecting to this particular connection, right? So this is something that the customers can leverage. Tableau also has the Oracle Spatial support. Now this is available and you can connect directly to your spatial data in Oracle and then instantly visualize Tableau in Tableau. Explain data improvements. Now, for those of you who are already aware of explain data, it's a statistical tool that Tableau had, which was very beneficial for users and statisticians, even data scientists, to analyze what's happening behind the scenes and understand what's significant and what's not significant, right? What's new with explain data in this release is the fact that we've brought in some improvements. Let me just show you on my desktop. Okay. Yeah. So this particular data is again that of a ride-hailing service, and I'm just looking at the distance covered for each month of the year. And to me, it looks like, and what it tells me is that August has been the busiest month. We have had a lot of users using the service. If I were to deep dive into why that's happened, I can leverage explain data there, and the explain data dialog box is going to pop up, and it's giving me this list of possible explanations. Right? Firstly, it's telling me that it's higher than expected, so it's statistically significant. That's good. It also tells me that the weather conditions had a significant role to play in observing such values. In August, it the weather conditions being overcast led to more users using the service. It also gives you extreme values. Now, this is the improvement that we have with this feature, with this release. Sorry, with this release. Now, one thing that we have here is that rather than having a single outlier, giving you a single outlier, Tableau is able to give you multiple records, which are really outliers to your observations, right? Now, prior to 2020, you just had one outlier there, which I think wasn't sufficient for any statistician to understand what's going on. Furthermore, the user has the ability to choose the fields to give the possible explanations. Now, this enables explain data to work more freely. Now, if you were to bring this analysis to a statistician or a data scientist, he would have a fair idea as to which fields are significant in telling you the story. So you could select and deselect the fields as per your use case, and then ask explain data to reanalyze your data. So now this is the improvement that we have brought in with 2020 with explain data, right? Ask data improvements. Now this again is very significant. So let me just show you on my browser. Again, I'm looking at my retail dashboard. Okay. If I hover on to my data details, which tells me where the data is being sourced from, I can jump right into that and leverage Ask Data. Now, Ask Data is an NLP feature, natural language processing feature, for those of you who aren't aware. Now, my server is slow. I'm going to refresh that. Yeah. So it basically helps you ask just questions on the fly, right? Just like how you type questions on your Google browser. What you will notice in this version is that you can add more questions so that it's readily available for the user to get the insight. Or you could even update the already existing questions which was analyzed and put up by Tableau itself. For example, nobody wants to know what sales figures are with a minimum value of 0.44 because it doesn't make sense. So a user has the ability to, or the flexibility to change that right on the browser here as well. Now, furthermore, if you were to look at the fields, Tableau had the capability to add synonyms to the columns. For example, if you look at a segment here, right, I'm going to choose to add a synonym. A business user may not probably relate to the word segment. Rather, he may be using the word business units. So I can add that synonym here, or maybe just BU, and I could go on with that. What's even more interesting is that I can drill down to the values of the field. The segment takes consumer, corporate, and home office values. I could add synonyms here as well. For example, consumer could be, any user could use this as B2C, and corporate could be B2B as an example. And home office, let's just keep it as it is. Okay. So having done that, this essentially becomes your data role, right? It's It's talking about your B2B customers, B2C business, and you can alternatively go ahead and publish this data role so that it gets saved on your server, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to publish this data role. Let's just call it segment. Now this is something that we didn't have prior to 2020.2. So after I publish this, later on I could use this with other fields as well, correct? So right now with segment, I'm using this particular data role. I could apply, choose to apply a different data role, or even remove this data role if I wanted to. Now, if I were to go back and just type a question, what are my B2C sales? Sorry, my server is a bit slow. Yeah. And so Ask Data already understands what I mean by B2C, right? Just because I have tied a data role to my fields. Now this highlights the importance of having data roles within Ask Data, and this is exactly what we have with 2020.2. All right. Moving on to web and mobile features, right? One of the very important features that I'm very excited to share with you is metrics. Now this again comes into picture when you use your dashboards on your phone. Now in order to show this, which I'll do in a while, I'll take you through my mobile screen so that you understand how it looks on your phone as well. Now, if you were to look at metrics, right? Metrics simply allows users to create KPIs on any view or dashboard, which saves time and effort for let's say Tableau data stewards. Metrics also allows these key numbers to be easily tracked across any number of dashboards, and provides value to those who may not be maybe a heavy Tableau user. Now, metrics support on Tableau Mobile, like I mentioned previously, allows all customers to track their data anytime and anywhere they want. Now, in order to show you a gist of how this works, I'll again go back to my browser. Let's assume that I want to track my sales across time. So I'm going to choose my sales, and I see my metrics down there. So I'm going to click on that. I selected my sales, and I can choose to keep that metric on my metrics list. So it automatically tells me that, okay, if I want to choose sales or profits, which again is sourced from the dashboard that I'm consuming, the user is able to choose any of that. I'll keep sales for now, and I'll save to keep this metric on my project sales data. So I just simply go ahead and create. It's as simple as that. And once I do that, I can go to the metric that's been created just now, which will take me to another pop-up window where I have my metric along the span of time, right? This is exactly what I wanted. Now, if you were to look closely, I have it nicely formatted. I have my the one value that I wanted to keep track of. This is on the browser. If I were to take this onto my mobile, right? What I'll try to do is try to mirror my mobile screen on my laptop. So just give me a moment. I'm just mirroring my phone. I hope you can see it. Yeah, it works perfectly well. And that's my phone screen that you're seeing, right? Let's say I'm opening up my Tableau mobile app. I'm choosing the Tableau mobile app, and it's just logging in. And that's my home screen, right? That's exactly what you see. For those of you who aren't aware, Tableau applications are supported very well on Tableau mobile devices as well. Now, the same metric, I can view that right here. right? And so it's going to select that, and that's what you see. And it's very interactive. Sorry about that. It's very interactive. And as I hover on each of my months, and I can keep track of my sales across time. It even, if you can observe, it sort of customizes my metric for me. It even gives me a percentage difference in sales with respect to the previous month. Now I can choose to change that value. I can adjust and compare. I can choose to keep how many months prior to my existing month I want the analysis to be done. I could choose a type of analysis as well. I could do a YOY comparison or a month-over-month comparison. That's pretty cool, right? This is something that the field sales people can really leverage because they would really want to keep track of their metrics, right? So I'm going to close this now. This is exactly how metrics work. And just one more thing to add, the recommendations that you see here are again something that Tableau has come up with. It uses machine learning algorithms to recommend the user what sort of visual is most used or best fit for a kind of user that uses the particular site. Now, this is exactly how you would see this on the phone. I hope all of you can see this as I mirror it on the screen. Okay. All right. So I'm going to close this now. Okay, and that's done. Yep. Recommendations, we just talked about it. Of course, this is a slight change that we've brought in. You could now reorder your favorite dashboards on the browser. If you were to go to your favorite section, and you could just keep track of your favorite dashboards. Open or upload workbooks on the web. Now, this is again important because previously you absolutely had to have a creator license in order for publishing your work onto the server. Now with 2020.2, that's not an issue because now users can simply drag and drop right onto the browser. I'll just show you on the browser here. So I go back to my home page. It tells me upload workbook, and I click on that. I could choose a file right here. And let's say I have a couple of dashboards down there, telecom dashboard, yeah. I'm simply dragging and dropping it onto my server. I click on upload over it, and it's going to get uploaded, right? Now, imagine the power of an explorer to be able to fetch information from the system rather than having to depend again on the IT to provide him the information. He or she could right away start his analysis on the browser, again with the help of the web authoring. So a person without a desktop application can actually bring in a packaged workbook onto the browser and then start or continue the analysis. So it's published right now. This is a telecom dashboard. We do have a couple of limitations with this in the sense that the data is not published along with it in the sense that you can't separate it out from the dashboard. If you want the data, it has to be a packaged workbook. There is a limitation to the size as well. It has to be less than 50 MB. But these are just initial improvements. So we'll hope to see further enhancements in the coming future. With respect to permissions, if you were to think about it, it's going to be inherited at the project level automatically. And just one more thing that the passwords as of now cannot be embedded when you upload it directly onto the browser, right? Okay. IT and governance, what do we have in store with 2020.2? Multiple external services connectors for Tableau server. Now, what we mean by that is you're leveraging R or Python services in order to do advanced analytics, right? Now, server administrators can now configure multiple analytics extensions. Earlier, that wasn't possible. It was just one extension per site. Now, administrators can set one per site through the settings UI and turn connections on or off at the site level. Now, teams using different R, Python, and other external data science environments can share their work with consumers across the same server. Settings are easier than ever to configure with UI controls. And that's a good part of it, right? You have UI controls and you don't have to necessarily code to get the controls in place. Or alternatively, you can even use the server REST API. One thing to note, formerly this was called external servers. Now we call this as analytics extensions. There are a couple of API updates as well. Webhooks updates. For those of you who are aware what webhooks are, these are simply you could call it as triggers, so that whenever there is an event that happens in your Tableau server environment, a corresponding action is executed. As an example, it could be with respect to completion of a refresh, and a user can be alerted that the refresh is done. Webhooks is used for that. So in 2020.2, you can enable this at site level, and that gives you more control across your deployment. With REST API, you can code or programmatically export a workbook as a PowerPoint file. Now, this came off as a user feedback, and that has been implemented in the latest release. So it becomes easier when it comes to the operations perspective. And you can even log nested projects programmatically, right? It's for all you developers out there. Okay, so talking about Tableau Prep Builder, this is one major enhancement that has been brought in. Now you can easily connect to your Salesforce directly with the Prep Builder and make use of the data that you have within your Salesforce. That's good. Incremental data refresh for Tableau Prep. Now this is a milestone achievement, I would say, because there have been a lot of discussions going on as to whether Tableau is capable of incrementally add data to the existing data sources. Now you could alternatively choose to increment your data by appending to an existing table, or choosing a different table or file altogether. So that's possible with 2020.2. That should be of relief to some of the customers, I believe. With data management add-ons, we have small improvements with respect to filtering. You are able to filter by connection types, certifications, and data quality warnings. Now, for those of you who are aware of data quality warnings, I can quickly show you what that is on my browser. I go to explore. Let's say I go to a dashboard. Let's do this. I go to data details, or maybe I'll choose a different one for that matter. Overview. Yeah. Now, what you see here is your data quality warning, because it has been set for the data source that's being consumed in this dashboard. How this is important is when it comes to giving visibility to end users, or even users who are building analysis on the existing dashboards. I'd like to point out an example from my previous company that I worked for. Now this we had to do an analysis with respect to Quebec region, I believe, and what did happen at the database front was that the regional codes changed for Quebec, and once the regional codes changed for Quebec, and since those regional codes were used as the joining fields, we were not able to convey the right analysis to the business users. The whole of Quebec was empty. The business was not able to see the right revenue coming off from the Quebec region. Imagine if you had data quality warnings in place, you would immediately notify the user as to whether the database is under maintenance, it's stale, it's deprecated, and so on and so forth. To give you a gist of how you could set a data quality warning, here I'll go into the data source and quickly show you how you can do that. So here there is your data source up there. You can choose your quality warning there in the menu. I have chosen enable warning here. That's why you saw the pop-up. And you can choose what sort of state your data source is in. You could probably, if it's under maintenance, if the DA or the DBAs are doing architectural upgrades, you could just classify them as under maintenance. Now, once you do that, you also enable for high visibility. Now, once you have the high visibility, all the users are being notified who consume the dashboard. So that's exactly how you build a data quality warning. And you see a warning sign here as well, right? So that's really of use, and I encourage all of you to sort of leverage this functionality. Dashboards in Lineage, if you were to look at this example here, Lineage is part of the data management add-on that sort of tells you how your data is being consumed upstream and downstream. And with 2020.2, you can even understand what dashboards use the corresponding data sources. We talked about this. It's again about the high visibility data quality warnings and how important it is so that all users have visibility across the organization. You can filter data assets by warnings. For example, if you go to your external assets here, let's say, and let's check for your database tables. You have your filters down there, and depending on the quality warnings you have, if you have any warnings as such, you could choose that, and your data sets which have warnings will pop up. As of now, I don't have any, which is why it shows none. And that's an improvement that we have with 2020.2. Coming to server management add-ons, I'll quickly brief you through what's happening here. A couple of improvements. With respect to server admin views, we have a background view, which has background loads, job runtime views, and event views. This is for all you server admins out there, or solution architects out there. And it also tells you the stale content view. You're able to identify unused content with even customizable parameters, right? Some more capabilities, you have hot configuration. You have with common TSM commands, you can leverage, you can implement these commands without having to restart your Tableau server. Now, very often that has become a challenge for users. To implement your changes, you need to restart the server. You don't have to do that with 2020.2 now. It also gives you certain server installation pre-checks. It's a set of pre-checks that Tableau does automatically during the initialization process, and that can come in handy. And for all Linux operating systems, you have your resource monitoring tool available with 2020.2 as well. This has also come off as user feedback, and you can absolutely leverage this. Now, this was a gist of the 2020.2 recent features and updates. I'll just set the floor for questions if there are any. I hope that was of some information, relevant information for you. So any questions as of now? I think I need to get back to... Okay, I think we are good then. So I really encourage everyone to sort of go through the Tableau portal. It'll have a lot of, we have a release page out there. It talks about all these features, and please leverage relationships. You will notice how easy and flexible it is for you to play around with the data. With that, it's a wrap for this session. Vindhya, anything that you wanted to add on?